for this. So today we have Lloyd Burrell, and we're going to learn more about electromagnetic frequencies. So fasten your seatbelts because we're going to learn and grow together. So, Lloyd, I didn't tell you this. It's time to dance. All the way from France. We spare no expense on the Lillian McDermott radio show. Here we go. So I hope all of you who are watching on Facebook Live are dancing with us. Did you get to share? Did you share?
I shared.
Awesome.
Yes.
There you go.
To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who have been watching the show for the last 7.5 years or since 2011, welcome back. Or if you maybe just stumbled upon the show yesterday, I'm so grateful that you're tuning in again. But if this is the first time that you have heard about the Lillian McDermott radio show, like my guest today, so I will say, just know I am grateful that you are listening today because I've been waiting for you. Please know this is a safe place that you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friends on Facebook Live, so you can go to @Lillian's Radio Show on Facebook, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, last week we had cancer coach Ellen Jacob share the effects on electromagnetic frequency. And I had mentioned that this week we were going to have more conversations on this. And we had been inviting someone else to continue this conversation because we hear about it all the time, but we ignore it. We ignore the fact that cell phones are causing issues on our body because for every person who says it causes issues, there might be 20 reports that say it doesn't. So we need to have informed choice. And this is when a long time ago I spoke to Ellen, and she had mentioned, well, I'm not the expert on EMFs. Who you really want to have on the show is Lloyd Burrell. And I said to Ashley, who is just my right hand, my left hand, and everything that guides for me for the show. And there's a lot of people on my team that, including my husband, who is just helping us along the way grow the show. And I said, reach out to Lloyd. He is in France and he is very busy. And finally, after all these months, we probably finally got him on the show. And so I just want to share a little bit about how he, back in 2002, started experiencing some symptoms every time he'd go on his computer, perhaps maybe on his cell phone, and different kinds of electronic machines. And so he started feeling ill, and doctors could not figure out what was going on with him. And so he finally decided that if I'm going to get better, he started doing research, it's going to be up to him to get better. Great advice for all of us. If you're going to get better, it's going to be up to you at times, because some of the doctors just don't know this information. Maybe people around you just don't know this information. And so today, once he figured out what was going on, it completely changed his life. It changed his career. It changed his perspective. And now he is very passionate towards sharing this new truth so that we can educate ourselves as well. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Lloyd Burrell is here to do just that. Welcome, Lloyd, to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lillian. I'm grateful for your invitation. I love your introduction there. So yeah, I'm getting into your vibe now. And I didn't know about your show before, but yeah, I'm learning.
Oh yeah, I didn't mean to shame you or anything. But I'm glad that we found each other. because it's about taking ownership of our life. And that's certainly something that you have done. So share a little bit about your background and what led you to finding this truth, not necessarily what truth you learned, but because that's what the rest of the show is about. But what did you experience, and how did you discover that this was the reason?
Yeah, what the heck happened was that one day in 2002, I answered my cell phone and I had a reaction to my cell phone. Initially, it was just kind of a bizarre sensation, kind of altered spatial awareness, not really sure what's going on, kind of a dizziness. And within a very few telephone conversations, it was actually, I was receiving. It wasn't like I was calling out people all the time. It was my work. It was my job. People were calling to reserve a holiday, actually. You know, that's what I was doing at the time. I was running a holiday park, or rental units, more specifically. And so very, very quickly, this kind of bizarre sensation developed, and I'm saying very quickly, and we're talking about in minutes, literally. The whole side of my head where I was holding the cell phone was literally burning up. And I just couldn't hold the cell phone next to my ear to speak. The pain was so great. It was like a drill, it's like an electric drill boring into the side of my head. That's really a rather graphic explanation of it, but that's what it felt like. It was not just, this is a bit annoying. It was really painful. And I've told this story many times. And when I tell it, I jokingly say it got so bad that I actually went to the doctors because I'm not really one for going to the doctors, hardly had a day off work in my life. And so that's how it all started. That's
the start of this whole process. And so we've become so desensitized that we don't even feel our bodies anymore. And so we're going to continue this conversation, not only on the air, on the radio, but we're also going to talk off the air at Lillian's radio show and Facebook. And we'll be right here waiting for you. Okay. Thank you for keeping me honest, Andre. I love your timing. And for those of you who are watching today, just know we are on a radio show and we're recording the on and off the air conversations. And the reason why we do this is because so many times our guests say powerful things, like important things on the radio, but then off the air, they were saying these powerful, I'm like, hold that thought, say it on the air. So now we are recording everything and we don't edit. We just put everything as is. So if those of you who are watching today, let us know where you're watching from. If you're Facebook Live, if you want to share a private message with me, you can send it on the instant messenger, or you can make a comment, ask any questions that you would like of Lloyd. And so interestingly enough, Lloyd, I remember feeling that heat on my face. But back in 2002, cell phones were different than they were. And you kept getting these reports that, it's causing brain tumors. And then there would be a study saying, no, that's not true. Then they would say, it's causing this. And then there'd be another study saying, no, that's not true. So how you found out that this was the actual, I do want you to discuss that on the air so that everybody can get up to date with it. But have you always been very sensitive and empathic is my question to you.
Great question, which I really get asked, but that you're absolutely bang on the money. Yes.
Okay, so.
Very sensitive, empathic, and perceptive. And that is really my strongest talent, if you want. And I've been banging my drum about this actually since 2009 on my website. And kind of really what I can say is I'm telling the truth about this. So I don't actually go around telling people I am an expert, I am the expert. My head is not that big that, I can still get through doors. I don't pretend to know everything about this, but I do know a lot. And really the most valuable information I have to share is what I feel. But obviously people are more interested in the studies. So I know rather a lot about the science.
Well, I don't mean to stereotype, but as a man, that's awesome. Because many people say that the men from the UK have a stiff upper lip, and
373
emotions. But here we go.
Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we always learn and grow together. Welcome to my classroom. And today's teacher is Lloyd Burrell. We are talking about EMFs. We're talking about the cell phones emit. There's towers all over the place. Now we have 3G, we have 5G, we have satellites all over the place. And some people are feeling ill and don't even know where it's coming from. So this happened to Lloyd back in 2002, almost instantly. So my question to you is, how, there wasn't the internet like it is today. How were you able to discover that this was the problem?
I was very, very fortunate in the sense that cell phone next to the ear, pain, cell phone away from the ear, no pain. And it was that obvious. I was going to say brain dead obvious, poor choice of words, but yeah, it was very, very obvious. And so it started with a cell phone, and then it developed into really everything electrical imaginable. My computer, the TV, the radio in the car, and really I found it very difficult I wasn't well in my own home, I wasn't well outside. I'd go around to friends, they've got Wi-Fi, they've got cordless phones, etc. And I was reacting to all of this.
And so this is, you're a provider for your home. All of a sudden, you're not feeling well. You're going to the doctors, and what are the doctors telling you? Suck it up, buttercup?
Not at all. No. So the doctor is actually a friend, a great guy. And,
Good.
Yeah, he was sympathetic, but he didn't have a solution, and neither did any of his colleagues, the specialists that he sent me to. And some of them were less than sympathetic. In fact, some of them were downright rude, to be honest.
Yeah.
One of them, the neurologist, and doctors can do this, unfortunately. They kind of look down the nose at you.
Yes.
So what you're experiencing can't be. That's what literally she told me, because she was seeing everybody from cleaning ladies to CEOs, and she'd never heard of anything like this, a cell phone impacting somebody's health in this way. But I knew it was true, and I hooked onto that and pulled through, thanks to the love of my wife, my family. And I was very, very fortunate and able to reorganize my work around doing more physical things outside. Rather than being on, it was complicated, it wasn't easy.
I'm sure, but things that are worth fighting for, sometimes they're not easy. And so I could tell. I was watching and doing research about you, and I know that this is a passion for you. It created a new career for you, so to speak.
It did, and that wasn't the idea.
Correct.
To create a new career. And I did actually, the thing is, it was like, well, what the heck am I going to do at one point? Because there's so many things I can't do. And even then, there was so many things that required a phone to do them, a cell phone. And so it did appear to be a bit of a handicap. Yeah. And I did turn to the internet, and I do live in France, and I'm British, and I do speak French, but I wanted to do something in my own language. Mm-hmm. And I just started, I did a YouTube video, put the blog on there, and it just took off from that. And it wasn't about a new career. It was just about sharing this information. And it was, it was this thing like, I know this thing. I'm a father. The worst thing about this whole cell phones and all the rest of the electromagnetic field question is what it's doing to our children.
Yes.
And I couldn't sit there being a father, knowing what I knew, and not tell people about these dangers. And it moved from telling people about the dangers, which didn't fit with me too well, because it's a little bit low vibration, a little bit too probably, it went from that to sharing the dangers, and more importantly, or telling about the danger and sharing solutions. And
Great.
That's about today's solutions and a positive approach to this.
Perfect. So you've already shared the symptoms. You've already shared that you were able to, take the phone away, felt good, put the phone back in, don't feel good. And so you were able to, you knew the source, you didn't know why. So how did you discover the why? Did you do research? Where did it lead you?
Yeah. So I tell you, for 2 years, I pretended I was okay when I wasn't okay. I was just, to be honest, I was just in I didn't know what to do. And it was very frightening. And there were no solutions. And for me, there's always a solution, but there wasn't. It seemed there wasn't.
Sure.
And I seemed to be going around in circles. And then eventually I kind of, well, actually it was an article I read in a paper. So I still read papers even today. You know, I get my news from newspapers still. And it's good for lots of reasons to actually have something in your hands and read it. And in this paper, I read about a guy actually also in the UK, CEO of a big food group, he got the exact same thing as me. He couldn't use his computer, couldn't use his cell phone. He was driving out in a clapped out old car. He was dictating to his secretary for his professional correspondence. And I said, and he was switching off his electricity at night to be able to get to sleep. Wow. And I said, wow, I am that guy. Because up until then, I thought I was the only, seriously, I thought I was the only person on the planet with this. Because this was like 2002, which seems like light years away compared to today.
Yeah.
We did have the internet, but it wasn't like it is now. And I'm a rather skeptical person, actually. But obviously, I've come a long way since then. But I was skeptical of the information and what I was reading on the internet. And I was tending to listen to doctors and people like that. And unfortunately, I wasn't getting very good advice.
Yes. And so as you are learning about it, what is it about electromagnetic frequencies that cause us harm? So share a little bit about what you've learned, and then we'll move on to perhaps maybe the solutions.
Yeah. What is it? So the thing to understand is that we are essentially a composition of, we don't know how many exactly, but 80 trillion, 100 trillion cells.
Yeah.
All these cells are, how do they communicate amongst themselves? Through electrical signals. And what are electromagnetic fields? They are electrical signals. They are man-made electrical signals. So they affect, and then when you're looking further, literally we've got organs. You go into hospitals and we have all kinds of examinations on our brain and on our hearts by monitoring these electrical signals. And so this is a fact. And yet at the same time, the medical community and even most of the science community doesn't seem to acknowledge this. So this is a fact, and there is hard science behind this, what I'm saying. In fact, pretty much all what I'm saying, there's so much science behind it. And it's really all about how these electromagnetic fields, and note, every time I'm saying it because I want people to understand it's electromagnetic fields I'm talking about, and I can develop what that actually means, because it means lots of things. Mm-hmm. But it's how these electromagnetic fields impact these cells and the different organs, because all our organs, all our tissues are made up from cells. That's what we are, cells, mm-hmm. a collection of cells.
Yes.
So it affects the cell membrane, which is actually really the brain of the cell. We thought one time it was just like the covering wasn't really important, but it's really super important. So it's a cell membrane. It's the what's called the calcium channels, the VGCCs, which is the interaction, which is a communication, if you want. It's super important for communication. Mm-hmm. There is a whole cascade of chemical effects when you expose yourselves to these man-made frequencies from cell phones, from Wi-Fi, from smart meters, and so on, which cause oxidization of the cells, for instance, so premature aging, so many different effects. Effects on the mitochondria, which is like the powerhouse of the cell, enzymes, which are the proteins. We're made of proteins, okay? And the DNA is the blueprint of your cells. So if you're messing up the DNA of your cells, and science tells us this, again, we're looking at single strand breaks, double strand breaks through this non-ionizing radio frequency. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Radiation, a non-ionizing radiation per se. So all these devices, again, which we're using, which people have in their homes, they affect us in so many ways. What people might be saying is, well, that sounds a little bit complicated, all that. But what that means is, so that is how it affects us at a cellular level, which I want to stress this point, because this is probably the most important point. You did reference it at the beginning. Mm-hmm. What you need to understand is it's not because you cannot feel these effects that they're not affecting you. What
Correct.
science tells us, what I am absolutely 110% clear on, is that these electromagnetic fields impact everybody, and they impact certain categories of the population in particular, and unfortunately that is children, pregnant women, and the elderly particularly. And so why is this important? Because when we're talking, so it impacts everybody. You can feel it or not. I could feel it because I'm a sensitive person. As you said offline, I'm empathic, I'm perceptive, and there is more and more people like me. And
Yes.
it's true, it tends to be more of a woman thing, a female thing, than a man thing.
Yes.
And then we have, from these cellular effects, we go into all these symptoms that you could be experiencing. And this is the tough thing, because I was blessed when it happened to me that day. Pain, no pain, in the sense that it was very clear it was my cell phone.
Yeah.
But but there's so many people, it's not clear. They don't know why they can't sleep at night. They've got these headaches. They've got this multitude of symptoms, and we've got all these various diseases, which are literally, we're talking cancer, we're talking cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, autoimmune disease, the list goes on. And again, I'm not just pulling things out of my hat here. There's hard science linking these different EMF exposures to all these different diseases.
And I'm sure that if people go to PubMed.gov, you will find EMF testing that they've done, publications for EMFs as well. That's my go-to place. It's a place where we can all go to, where doctors and researchers publish their research, and that's way. And the results are there, and you can decide whether or not it resonates with you or not. And so here's some of the things that if you go to Electric Sense, it's called electricsense.com. You can see some of the experiences that Lloyd Burrell had. So he was dealing with prickly skin, headaches, heart and respiratory problems, difficulty concentrating, poor digestion, difficulty sleeping, dizziness and low balance, loss of balance, tiredness, ear pain, tingling, pain in the joints and muscles, stomach pains, muscle cramps, depression, and metallic taste in your mouth. Those are just a few different sensations that Lloyd shares. Is there anything that you'd like to add, Lloyd?
I just wanted to say about the science, you're absolutely right, PubMed. You're absolutely right to mention my website. Thank you. It's not a science website. It's where I am communicating the science in a way that people can understand. If you just want to read the studies, then you go to EMF portal, where there are because people say to you, oh, there's no studies on this, it's safe. If there was a problem, the government would tell us. There's safety standards, okay? Don't believe them. Do your own research. EMF portal, okay? Over 26,000 studies on electromagnetic fields.
Very good. Very good. And this is a conversation. We're going to continue our conversation off the air. So if you want to join us, go to facebook.com/Lillian's Radio Show. You can ask any questions. You can call, leave a message, text 407-373-5959. And all the way from France, we've got Lloyd Burrell sharing his wisdom with us. And we're going to continue our conversation. We'll be right here waiting for you. Okay. So we have a question from Sek. And Sek, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, and I apologize if I am not, but the last name is Gabi. And I don't know if I pronounced that right either, but please, so it says, how to choose from many protection that are on the market. So that's a question that they want to ask. And so I don't know if you want to address that now or if you want to address it on the air. Because we're going to talk about solutions.
One question, and which I think everybody really should be able to get the answer to that question. So I guess it's probably better to answer
on the air. Okay, so thank you for that question. I'll put a little heart on you right there. Oops, I got you liked. But if there's more questions, and of course, Yvonne is watching from Malaysia, and Sek, you're from, is it Montenegro or is it England? I'm trying to remember. I can't remember from past that you have said where you're from. And so I'm just so excited that we are truly worldwide and we get to share this information. Isn't it wonderful, though, that we are able, you know, if you're in France, we're here. Internet is so important, but yet it's a double-edged sword. You know, here we are getting information, but how do we protect ourselves while, and that's, I guess, an elaboration of what the question was asked earlier. And so for those of you who are watching on Facebook, I want to encourage you to go to my Facebook, my website, and click on to Keep Me Safe Organics and First Alternative Care. First Alternative Care offers 24/7 telemedicine per household for $35 a month. That's telemedicine per household. And a household can include your grandchildren or your grandparents or 4 college students living together, and you share that expense. And it's medical for family practice, and they can write a prescription as well, dermatology, and 3 hours a year of mental health counseling. We also have, so that's one of the buttons you can click on to learn more. You can also, these are my off-the-air sponsors. You can click on Keep Me Safe Organics, and Keep Me Safe Organics is the cleansers and beauty products that I use. And I want you to know that when you purchase an order of Keep Me Safe Organics, if you enter Lily 10, you get 10% off your entire purchase. And that's only on my page at whenyouneedafriend.com. And then finally, if you live in Merritt Island, I love, love, love the pharmacy, Ross Clark of the pharmacy. If you mention Lily 10, Lily sent you, they'll give you 20% off your first prescription. And he does compounding, so it's natural for the body. Okay, so now that I've talked to you about my sponsors, of course, Liberty Health Share that we'll talk about on the air, people who are listening on the radio right now are hearing about Liberty Health Share. So thank you so much. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to tell you, and I guess I'll let you know now, is at the end of the show, I always wish my listeners love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. And if all of you want to say, I always say, make it the best day, and you can give me this resounding ever, give me an ever, all of you, and wherever you're at, give me that ever as well, so that we can all unite together and get that frequency combined. Okay, so how much time do we have, Andre, before we go back on the air? Andre, 30 seconds. I always ask when there's 30 seconds. I've got this internal clock on me.
I'm glad you said frequency there.
Yes, important. Frequency. Yeah. We all emit a frequency. And what I'm getting from your explanation is the cell phones kind of like hit our frequency and kind of destroy that energy field that we emit, that people feel. And yes. Okay, so when we go back from the break, this is where I talk about my show, and then I will reintroduce you. And you guys are getting the back, this is the backstage view.
Goodies, all the goodies.
All the goodies. This is all the stuff. And now, singing the dance. Here we go. Count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you. You won't forget me anymore, right?
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407.
We'll be dancing in the morning.
5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we are heard worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. You can also follow us in different ways, and I'll share that in a little bit. I'm your host, Lillian McDermott, and it is my goal that we learn from each other. Go through life with childlike wonder. Be curious instead of critical. Today, you're going to be hearing some things that you may or may not agree with. And whether you agree or not, that's okay. My job is not to convince you. My job is to give you informed choices. And so that you can decide and empower yourself as a responsible human being, that how you're going to live your life. And today we're talking about electromagnetic frequency. We started the conversation. We've had this conversation before, but it's been a while. We started the conversation last week. We're continuing it. We started it with Ellen Jacobs. We're continuing it with Lloyd Burrell. And so today you get to decide what you want to do with this information. It's up to you. Ultimately, this has become my truth, but I don't tell you what to do. It's about you deciding if it's your truth now or not your truth. So I encourage you. You can go to EMF Portal. You can go to pubmed.gov. You can go to electricsense.com. There's so many different ways that you can learn, discern what resonates with you. And that's what we talk about at whenyouneedafriend.com. And if you haven't become a subscriber yet, I ask that you become a subscriber. And when you do, you get all sorts of free gifts. You get information of who's going to be on with all the links, everything that you need to be on the show. And so I ask that you become a subscriber. While you're there, like me and follow me. Click on all the little social media buttons. Click on everything that you have there that you will see, like YouTube. Subscribe there. Subscribe to the station, the website, and also you can subscribe to all my social media. When you do that, we unite our frequencies so that we can stay connected to learn this new truth that will affect our entire life. And so the one thing I ask that while you're there is that you check out my sponsors. Without my sponsors, there would be no show. My on the air, the radio show sponsor is Liberty Health Share. Amazing. I'm a member of Liberty Health Share, and I encourage you to do the same, to be curious again instead of critical. If you don't like social media and you don't like being on the website and you're trying to, you can go on podcast. And I am on all podcasts. You can go there as well. You can also reach out to me at lily@whenyouneedafriend.com. You can call me or text me at 407-373-5959. You can ask any questions during the show. You can ask also off the air if you have a particular topic that you would like. And last but not least, you can follow us at Lillian's Radio Show on Facebook. Right now we are live, and you can hear the on the air and off the air conversation. And we're talking about EMFs. And so we are so grateful. And I say, I am so grateful that we have Lloyd Burrell all the way from France. This is all, we are spreading this news and the power of education and how to educate yourself and be, and like Lloyd said at the beginning, or when I was doing the intro, if we are to heal, it's going to be up to us. And so it's time to take our health back. And Lloyd, thank you so much for what you do to create this awareness. And while I was doing the intro, you said you wanted to add something. What would you like to add?
You know, I just wanted to bounce back because I love what you're saying. Seriously, in a very British way. Because, you know, I'm just listening to the words you're using here, and frequency, resonance, and connection, and that is so important. Yes. And it just underlines the relevancy of electromagnetic fields, even though you might not feel it, and it might seem rather a mouthful to say that. It's how these man-made frequencies impact our natural, the Earth's frequency and our own frequencies and our own energies, as you said, I think when we're offline, that's super important. So it is really about energy, and it's that most fundamental thing, because energy is everything and everything is energy.
Yes. And, you know, I am not the expert on this show. I bring the teachers on the show. This is like a classroom, and I always welcome everybody into the classroom. I am learning alongside with everybody else. And I've done this show before. I've done shows about electromagnetic frequency. The first show I did on electromagnetic frequency was probably in 2013, 2014. But I don't until you explained it the way you did, when I asked you what electromagnetic frequency, it finally clicked that we are all frequencies. And then when we have anything artificial, it will impact. It's just like when we eat artificial anything, it will impact our body. And so I hear what you're saying, and I hope that when people are listening today, my viewing friends, that it's also going, light bulbs are going on all over the world. And so what I wanted to say, and what we had a question off the air, is that, what about the protection? So this is a double-edged sword. As I said, we need the internet. We need our phones. How do we now start focusing on being the solution? So let's talk about solutions now.
There's 3 steps to my approach to this. Understanding, which is what we're doing today, understanding about these frequencies, which we're doing very, very, you can't understand it all in a 1 hour conversation, unfortunately. But understanding, what exactly these EMFs are, these different categories of EMFs, which we've not really talked about very quickly. It's electric fields, magnetic fields, radio frequency, radiation, and dirty electricity. And I know the theme of your show today was cell phone radiation, but we've gone a little bit beyond that. But if you want to talk more about it, I'm very happy to. Yes. But that's only one aspect, and it's really becoming the most public aspect of it, notably because of 5G, this new cellular technology which is being rolled out. So as I say, so 3 steps. First one is the understanding. The second one is actually measuring your exposures. You can do this very easily with devices called electromagnetic field meters. I haven't got one with me. I should have brought one, but I've got to talk about these a lot on my website, review the meters, and they consume it. You don't need to be have any special training on how to use these things. Very simple to use. And then thirdly, mitigation. So how to reduce your exposures in some way. And really, it's those 3 steps are really important. And most people that are listening, unfortunately, I'm not going to take time to do all that, but that's okay. You have to start somewhere. Don't beat yourself up. Baby steps, 1 step at a time. And what I would say really is particularly a big issue is wireless. And I'm not saying it's all about wireless or that is even the most important, because that I can't say that, and nobody really can say that. Nobody really knows, because we are all different. And these frequencies impact our health in all different ways. And because we do all have our own unique frequency, actually. In fact, every organ has its own unique frequency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're just a combination of frequency. And so we're being affected by these frequencies. And certainly the wireless is an issue because it's growing, because there are more and more wireless frequencies, because not only do we have cell phones, which are a wireless device, but I mean, even on your cell phone, I mean, how many different types of wireless connection are there? So there's a cellular connection. Have you ever thought about this? Most people know. They just want to be able to text, talk, whatever, check out Facebook, whatever. But how does it do that? Well, it does it in a multitude of ways, just your cell phone. So there's the cellular connection through the cell tower. There's a Wi-Fi connection. There's a Bluetooth connection. There's often a GPS connection as well. So it's doing this in a variety of ways very intelligently. And there's a reason we call them smartphones, because they are rather just mind-bogglingly brilliant devices.
Yes.
But unfortunately, there is a huge downside. And so that would be really what we would be looking at. And if I was to give you 3 quick tips on what to deal with in terms of wireless, then it would be cell phones. It would be cordless phones. How many people have still got cordless phones in their homes? How many people are sleeping next to a cordless phone? It's like having a mini cell tower in your bedroom. Come on, folks. And thirdly is the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi, how many people are sleeping with Wi-Fi? You're sleeping? Why have you got the Wi-Fi on? And a little timer, like you use to make people think you're in the home when you're not. Those things you put on your socket and
yes.
it switches lights on and off. You can use one of those.
Use it. That's a cheap solution to it.
It's a really cheap solution. Some modem routers have built-in software where you can do this, and sometimes even if it's got that software, it's so complicated to go in there and figure it out. Just pay the $10 and get the thing, and you plug it in, and it switches off, by itself every night. And you honestly just do that and just see the difference. Give yourself a week and see what that does.
Absolutely. So that's a great tip. So for those of you who are listening and you want to see, because I feel that it affects my sleep. I think that, and I discovered how it affects my sleep when we got a Fitbit. And everybody had Fitbits, and we were like all competition. And I could be pretty competitive, but in a sweet way. I'm not like I'm like a Larry, Moe, and Curly.
Of course, I knew that.
Yeah, and so I could not. I wanted to test my sleep pattern, and I couldn't sleep with my Fitbit on. And that's how I discovered that that frequency was affecting me. And so we're going to continue our conversation. You can join us off the air on Facebook Live at Lillian's Radio Show, or you can continue listening on the radio, or you can catch us later on YouTube. So there's so many different ways to be connected, but just know we'll be back with Lloyd Burrell. We'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. Okay, so different ways, because now when we go back on the air, we only have, 8 minutes. So let's take advantage of this. And some of the things that maybe need that we have to repeat, we'll repeat. But I do want to address children and how many kids, our parents, were using the phone as a babysitter, and children are mimicking our parents. And let's talk about how it affects children. I know that this is something I really wanted to talk about on the air, but we just need to talk about it.
Well, children are not just little adults. Their bodies are still forming.
Yes.
They've got high water content. Their skulls are thinner. There's a whole load of reasons why these electromagnetic fields impact children way worse than adults. And there's a lot of science on this. Children are particularly vulnerable. If you want to see the studies, go on my website. I've got a whole section on children. But really, folks, and I don't want to be a killjoy here, but your kids shouldn't be having cell phones, not until they're like fully formed, So it depends, boys and girls are different, but it might be, 14, 16 years old. Really to protect them. And I think I hope there will be a law against this soon. And there are laws being brought out about this. In France, they're not allowed them now in the nurseries.
Wow. You guys are so much more protective of the humanity.
Not really. The grass is all green.
Listen, children are, my granddaughter who just turned, she'll be turning 9. She just got a cell phone for Christmas, and she is constantly on the phone now.
Of course.
And so it concerns me, and I hope that my daughters are watching so that they can learn, and our children are learning as well. So let me ask you something. Let's talk about this protection. I just discovered that there is a cell tower outside. There's a, like a cable company right really close to where I live. And I could see the tower from where I live. How much do I need to protect myself and all of us who are surrounded by towers? Right now I've got 2, 3, the cell phones. I've got like 5 different gadgets, electricity all over. How do I protect myself?
So we're back to the 3 steps. What I said previously. Understand, measure, and mitigate. So understand, what is it? Okay, it's radio frequency radiation. Measure. How can we measure it? With a radio frequency meter, measure your exposures. Where do we measure? We want to measure where's the most important room in your house. And the most important room, your bedroom, because that's where your body's, where all the cellular processes,
That's where we regenerate.
Old folks, you think you're sleeping and like taking it easy, but your body's like, it powers up.
Okay, here we go. So this is our last.
Okay. I'll be right here waiting for you.
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407
Yvonne, I'll ask that question.
5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we always learn from one another. Welcome to the classroom. And we are learning about EMFs. And I really hope and pray that we do become more curious about this instead of just dismiss it as something that crazy people talk about. I would have said I was a crazy person maybe 8 or 9 years ago, but I've learned to be curious instead of critical and research it. And if it doesn't resonate with you, then dismiss it. But it's good to be curious about this and consider that if this is true, let me consider if this is true, then how is it affecting my body? I believe it is affecting my body through interrupted sleep and during my sleep cycle. And that affects my day. And how does it affect you? Do you have fibromyalgia? Do you have itchy skin? I just went through a list of different things, but it might affect you in a different way. But here's what we've done. we have tuned out our bodies. Our bodies are constantly speaking to us and saying, hey, look at this, and hey, look at that. And we say, I'm going to numb this out. I'm going to take a pill because I've got a headache right now. And so my registered service mark is you can take a pill or you can take responsibility. And I'm not against the pill. I am for doing everything you can to heal naturally. So with that in mind, off the air, we were talking about our children. And so I want to encourage you, for those of you who have given a phone or a cell phone, or your children are just in the back seat looking at your cell phone, watching videos, please know this is harming their DNA. And so I just want to encourage you to listen to some of the information off the air that we just discussed. Now, Lloyd, we are bombarded by electromagnetic frequency. I love your tip of just buying a timer and hooking your modem, hooking your Wi-Fi to this, and then turning it off at a certain time, turning it back on at a certain time. Are there any other tips that you can suggest?
You know, there's so many tips. I think the biggest question people have is like about the cell phone, right? A very, very common question is, what cell phone do I buy? You know, what's the safest cell phone? Unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that question. The reason I don't have the answer is because you would need a laboratory to figure that out, very sophisticated equipment, which I don't have. And I wouldn't, you know, I don't have that skill. And it seems that nobody really does at the moment. There's no proper testing done. You have to know that. Yeah. It's the cell phone, the testing that is done by it's like an industry test, if you want, the SAR. And so, yeah, so I want to buy a cell phone, but I want a safe cell phone. I think that is really a very, very important and common question. And the answer is, it's not the cell phone you buy, it's how you use it. And it's the same with all this technology. It's not what you've got, it's how you're using it. Okay. And there is, for instance, with the internet, you can say, I mean, I've got internet, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be speaking. But
correct.
How do I do it? Well, my internet is all wired. Everything here in this room is all wired. Am I being exposed to EMFs? Of course. But I've built my health back up over years, over time, to a position where now I can expose myself like most people and I cannot feel it. Doesn't mean it's not affecting me, it is. But I know I work with my own energies daily to be able to bounce back and to be able to, you know, feel great, which really I do. I've never felt so good, to be honest. Good. So I'm very fortunate. And so it is about back to the 3 steps, it's about understanding. And the understanding bit with the cell phones is on the understanding how to use it. And there's a really important thing to remember here when you're using a cell phone or when you're using any of these technologies indeed. And that is, distance is your friend. And it sounds like a bit of an oversimplification. And it is kind of, but if you just carry that thought around with you whenever you're using technologies, then if you apply that to a cell phone, what does that mean? It means you never put it like this, sticking it right next to your brain, unless you have to. Yes. Okay, well, how do you start then? Well, you have the speakerphone, but that's not always, depends what kind of conversation you're having. It's not always possible on where you are. And the other alternative is to use some kind of headset. And we talked about this, I think, just before you came on air. You were asking me this question. So, what is that safe? Is it not safe? Well, unfortunately, most of the headsets which are sold are a wired headset. The problem with the wired headset is that the radiation, the radio frequency radiation can pass up the wire. So it acts like an antenna, this wire, because actually everything around us, you don't see it, but everything is resonating, reverberating. Yes. With our own frequencies, we're impacting everything and everyone, and we're all, of course, interconnected. And that's through frequency. But all these electromagnetic frequencies, it's more like, boom, a bulldozer. It's like non-subtle, completely non-subtle. And so that wired connection will act like an antenna, and it can beam it up straight into your brain.
Correct. And I switched to air tubes. The quality of the sound is not that good. It's not as good as I feel like I'm talking through a tin can with a string.
Right. So it
but
depends which ear tube, and you're absolutely correct. And I have reviewed a brand which I tested, and you don't get. I mean, you're a sound professional. You know, this is your special. You know, this is really important for you.
Yeah.
And it depends what you're looking for. But if you're looking to listen to, you know, Mozart or whatever, and you really want to hear all the nuances, then yeah, okay, you are going to miss out. But it's always like
it's a
you've got to
compromise.
weigh, you know, the benefits and the costs.
That's right.
And so it also depends on how much you're using this device, cell phone or other. But being as we're in a world where people are reliant on their cell phones more and more because they do more and more things, then it is super important to know how to use a cell phone safely. And there is a lot really of information around that I can give you. For instance, not using a cell phone in a car, really avoiding it as much as possible. Why? Because a car can act as a Faraday cage. So it encloses the signal, it makes your cell phone work harder. So it makes it like pop up the volume, pop up the volume. That's what it's doing to connect with the cell tower. And so that is to me, and we are just absorbing all this. And that is to be avoided.
Yeah, Joe Mercola, who I've had on the show, I've met several times. I've been in his presence. The first thing he does before he puts his arm around for a picture or whatever, he goes, "Is your cell phone on airplane mode?" And the funny part was he asked his whole audience to put the cell phone on airplane mode, and we did. And while he was giving a presentation, and we joked off the air one time, while he was giving a presentation, his cell phone rang, which was hilarious. It was hilarious. And so that meant he was not on airplane mode. Everybody else was.
He's awesome. I interviewed him last year, and he's a great ambassador for this. And he's, you know, if you look at his website, he does cover EMFs quite a lot, but it's not all about EMFs. But just for some background information, I'm sure he won't mind you. He won't mind saying this, is that he is really into EMFs, and he really does have a good understanding of this. He has a very good scientific understanding, and there's lots of different ways we can understand EMFs.
Yes.
But it's my understanding is more about about how it feels and impacts me, and I understand how it impacts other people, particularly because I'm in contact with those other people, you know, so much through my website and through the work I've done.
Yes, and the website is electricsense.com. I want to encourage you to all look up this research yourself, make this your truth, and decide what you want to do about it. And so it's emfportal.com. You can go to emfportal.com. And also you can watch this video again and again and share it, like it, make sure you make other people aware of it. You know, fear is probably worse than any of the EMFs that we'll be talking about. This is not about instilling fear on anybody. This is about informed choice. I want you guys to protect yourself. Off the air, I don't know, Lloyd, if you have some time, let's continue the conversation. So I want to talk about protection. Like there's clothing and sandals, and there's so much like paint and different things that you can do. And maybe you can go a little overboard on it. So I do want to talk about, you know, how can we seriously protect ourselves? Like that tip about, you know, shutting off your Wi-Fi. You know, we don't need it at night. We're asleep. We've just become so numb and desensitized to this. So, but I do want to thank you, Lloyd, for being on the show today. And I'm looking forward to maybe the off-the-air conversation and maybe having you on the show again. Is that good?
That's good.
Okay.
I'd love to.
Perfect. And for those of you,
I love your frequency.
Thank you. I love your frequency too. And for those of you who are listening and maybe have a condition that you just can't figure out what it is, if you want to figure it out, it might be up to you. So look into this and see if that's what is happening. Please remember, I'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Oh, that's where the ever comes from. There we go. I didn't cue you real well. Okay. So thank you so much for tuning in. Do you have some time that we can discuss clothing in different ways? Perfect. How much time do you have? I want to be sensitive to your time.
I'm actually waiting for the gentleman. I've got a new computer today, so, and he will be here at some point. He said after 3 p.m. It's 3 p.m. my time. So Perfect. We'll keep going until the doorbell rings.
Okay, until the doorbell rings. Here we go. For those of you, just know we got some time. Okay, so aside from the devices, the towers, and all of that, you talked about clothing or there are clothing, there are covers for your cell phone, there are mats that Ellen Jacobs talked about. Are those things, have you tested them? Because I know that you've tested many things. Have you taken your little machine with these pads? Do they really work, or are they just a way to get us to spend some money?
Yes and no. Unfortunately, it's not a cut and dried answer I can give you to that. It's not black and white. There are studies. So if we're talking about, well, there's so many things really. There's multiple questions there, but talking about the devices, for instance, which you stick on your cell phone, or devices which you can plug into your electricity supply, home harmonizers and things like that. Do they work? You know, the thing is, a lot of these devices, they have some science behind them. Now, the problem is some of the science is really quite worthless because they've just paid for somebody to do a study to get a result. And that is quite the contrary to the science which I was talking about before, which is peer-reviewed studies. You know, what I've been referring to earlier in our talk is peer-reviewed science, which is the gold standard, which is you do a study and then somebody else replicates that study and they get the same conclusions. So we know, you know, that's solid. And so there are really a whole load of, you know, snake oil artists out there. It's not my approach. And, you know, I have this website where I talk about this. And one of the things you'll notice about my website, where I talk about electromagnetic fields, and one of the things you'll notice is, well, why is there no ads on there for any of this?
I love that about you. And that's why I did reach out to you, by the way.
A very conscious decision because, well, there's lots of reasons, but I've actually lived this firsthand. I mean, it's just devastating when it happens to you. Honestly, Lily, it's like, what, you know, where do I go? I can't live in it was the 20th century at the time, but it was just the 21st. But yeah, I mean, I cannot live in this century. What, you know, where do I go? What do I do? And it is, it's not just a bit of a problem. It is a huge, for me, for my family, and really, it's like nowhere to turn, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. And so these devices, what did I do? I'm like everybody else. When this thing hit me, what did I do? I went out and I was looking for the quick fix. Mm-hmm. And I spent thousands on these quick fixes and nothing worked. Does that mean nothing works? No. What I do know is that, you know, I have a lot of interaction with people. I've got a private members group, you know, people I'm working with. I've got a lot of people I've got a forum on my website. There's a whole thing with people, discussions going on there. What I do know, what I am observing is that other electrically sensitive people, and that is a term I use very lightly because everybody's actually electrically sensitive, but let's say electrically hypersensitive, people that are symptomatic, even let's explain it, talk about it like that. They do not, I mean, this is like 99 times out of 100, they do not get relief from these devices, okay? It just does not, unfortunately. So that is why I'm not recommending these devices, because for most people, they don't work. And I'm not saying don't go out and buy these devices. I'm saying by all means, try them, because—
Test them. You're saying test them.
Yeah, I'm saying—
and return them if they don't work.
Right. I'm not— right. What I'm saying is this. I'm saying do the conventional EMF protection, which is the stuff I talk about, which is the 3 steps that I've been going through: the understanding, the measuring, and the mitigation. Do that first, the conventional approach. Then when you've done that, when you've took that to the nth degree, then you go into all the other stuff. Yeah, all the other gadgets.
I love that.
Then you're allowed to. You've got Lloyd's blessing to try them, but not before.
Yes, yes. And I love the fact is something, and I've said to my husband, you know, honey, why don't we just unplug the router or the Wi-Fi or whatever? But you also say that there are electronic machinery that will continue, that'll kick on automatically. Even if you turn it off, it'll kick on. So we need
Correct.
we need to know what we have in our home. And so instead of unplugging, which requires for you to remember every night, that tip about turning it off. I've got most of my lamps on timers. And it's so funny. My lamps turn on at different times. And when people come over, they're like amazed. Well, how did you turn on this light? Well, you got timers. But the funny thing is they turn off at the same time, whether we have guests or not. And people laugh. They say, oh, okay, it's time to go. The lights are going off, But we can do this with our Wi-Fi. And so the hours from 10 to 2, 10 p.m. and 2 o'clock in the morning, that's when our body is doing all the cleaning out. And I call it the scrubbing bubbles. Our body works hard so we don't have to. And it gets rid of the toxins, it gets rid of all that stuff. And if we have something keeping that frequency from, the organ from tuning on, because maybe that organ is tuning in more to that EMF, it'll wake you up, it'll disrupt your sleep. And the only way that we can heal, and those healing enzymes are released and cleaned out your body, is between the hours of 10 and 2, and you have to be asleep.
Completely. And so there is a cascade of effect. It's a cascade. And it starts off often, and it is a complex. And another thing to think about is the toxic barrel. So why, how is it some people are affected and others aren't? Well, the toxic barrel, and I didn't invent this either. But it's, so you're okay. And then one day, 2002, I'm not okay. What happened? My toxic barrel was full. It started overflowing. And then what happened? I didn't know how to stop it. And it carried on for several years being full. In fact, it was overflowing. It was just getting worse. And so the EMFs add to this toxic barrel, and the sleeping, and that's why it's super, super, super important to really, one thing I say is, do not obsess, folks, about EMFs. And what happens is there's two categories of people, let's say, in this world. There's the people who are electrically hypersensitive. And once you become electrically hypersensitive, it is very, very difficult to go into reverse gear and get back to where you were before. And there's a lot of people that suffer.
And you did it, though. You did it, so it can be done. You just have to be patient.
Done, and others have done it. I'm not the only person, but it is quite rare. It is quite rare. And then you've got the other, which is 99.9% recurring of the population, which are not electrically hypersensitive, which don't have symptoms, which do not feel these frequencies. And the problem is that when you don't feel it, you tend to not do anything. You think, well, it's just like everything else, like doing sport or, eating properly and things like that. Yes. And when you do get it, when you do become EHS, electrically hypersensitive, and then it's not that it's too late, but boy, if you'd have just listened before and took some action. So that's why, folks, it's important to take action now. It's not just like eating junk food or, all those, having bad thoughts or all those many ways that we can impact our health. I honestly believe that electromagnetic fields are the mother of all toxins, and there is science behind it.
Yeah, I've done a lot of shows on toxic overload. And here's the thing. We've become so desensitized to pharmaceutical drugs that we know that the side effect might be death. The side effect might be blood in your stools. The side effect might be, just all these different things. But you're seeing these beautiful images. And I don't know if in Europe they allow commercials from pharmaceuticals, but in the United States, we do. And so even though this person looks fun, they're having great time, and they're talking about this drug, the next 30 seconds is spent on telling you all the side effects while you're seeing all these beautiful people laughing and having a good time. So we've been desensitized, and that's why I say you could take a pill, you could take responsibility. So here's the thing. Somebody might have migraines, or somebody might have, problem sleeping, or gastric issues, or diabetes. What was the drop that caused the cup to runneth over? So the problem is that we wait until the cup runneth over. We go to the doctor and say, I've got this symptom, and the body's actually speaking to us, right? The body is saying, well, I'm not happy right here. You need to address this issue. We go to the doctor calls it a disease or a diagnosis. And now they give you a pill for that diagnosis. And it's a vicious cycle that if we were to just stop and listen to our body, like you listen. And I remember, Lloyd, when I first got my cell phone and I'd be talking on the phone, my whole face was red and my whole side was, I could feel the heat. And then I got these earphones, these Bluetooths that would sit on my neck 24/7, type of thing. And of course, my thyroid kind of got a little wacky.
Yeah.
Since then, I'm using, like I said, I'm using for the most part these. You do compromise on the sound quality, but I am never going to compromise on my health. That's why we talk about taking 100% responsibility for everything. And if we can just tweak some of these things, and Diane, you are absolutely right. There is healthy fear. There is healthy fear, and there is hesitancy, and there is respect. And so thank you for that. And so we do need to be careful because we are the only ones. You were the only one, Lloyd, that knew your body so well. But what you did that's different than what most people are doing is that you listened to your body and you looked for answers for your body. So well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. A pat on your back. And so I'm asking all of you, what are you willing to do to discover those little symptoms that you think it's not affecting us? What is that drop that will runneth our cup over? What is that drop? Do we wait for that drop, or do we say, I'm not going to allow this cup to fill over? I'm going to do little things. You've got my commitment, Lloyd, that I'm running out today to get one of those shut-off valves, because I've been asking my husband to turn off the Wi-Fi. But how are you going to remember? It's how are you going to remember? Well, now
This is such a classic scenario, is that how many times have I heard this? Is the wife or the girlfriend or whatever is like, just totally gets it, the EMF dangers, and maybe has some kind of a reaction or symptom, and the husband or the boyfriend just doesn't want to know, just is too into his cell phone and everything.
It's easy, it's convenient,
and all the rest of it. And so women are more tuned in to their inner guidance, and so this is, but it's important for everybody. It's important for everybody. And it is really just about doing little things and, being able to look the beast in the eye. And this already, I think, in being here today and listening to me talk about this, go on about this, you are already making that first step. And it's maybe not the first time that you've heard about this.
Correct.
But over time, then you will, it's not about believing me necessarily, but already if just go and look about what I've talked about today and do your own research and make your own decision about this.
Yes.
Believe me, it's really pretty crystal clear as to what these frequencies are doing to us. As we close here, because I know that I don't want to wait till the doorbell rings. I have to go. Yeah, when I have to go very suddenly. Yes, and I don't want to wait till that doorbell rings. But what is the machinery? Because your second step is to measure. What is the machinery that is best to measure in your home? So the second step to measure is an electromagnetic field meter, and there are different meters, and another time I can actually bring you some meters. But really what I'm recommending is a multi-purpose meter now for most people. And, and that's another question is, what's the best meter? And unfortunately, there is no best meter. It depends on you, depends on your budget. It depends on your sensitivity. Are you symptomatic, non-symptomatic? Depends on, how your brain works. So you're somebody who likes a lot of data, or you just want no data, just a colored light. It depends on so many things. And I have reviewed a lot of meters. And what I can, if you want, looking for a tip today, my favorites, for most people, would be the Cornet ED 88T Plus. Sorry, I'm just making sure I give you the right reference. So the Cornet ED, E for Echo, D for Derek, 88T plus. Okay, it's a bit of a long description because they keep adding letters and words onto it, and every time they upgrade it or modify it or improve it, which they have been doing, the people at Cornet. And the reason I would like that meter is because it's a multi-purpose meter. It's it's a tri-meter, so it can measure 3 kinds of electromagnetic fields. It can measure the radio frequency radiation, which most people are interested in. So it can measure your cell phone frequencies. It can measure the Wi-Fi. It can measure really not all wireless, but most of the wireless which is going on for the moment.
Yes.
Because it is going to be changing, but it's not right now, folks, because that's another question is, what about 5G? It's not right now, okay? The 5G is happening now, but the frequency change is not happening now, and it might not happen for some time because money.
Yeah, well,
that's saving us because it requires a massive investment in infrastructure.
Yes, yes.
But so the Cornet ED88T Plus can measure radio frequency radiation, electric fields, and magnetic fields. Its strengths are the radio frequency radiation measurements and the magnetic fields. It's
very good
on the electric fields. And I've done detailed review on this. It's on YouTube. It's on my website.
And when's your next summit?
Well, my next summit. So this year I will be having. I did a big summit last year, and I will probably be airing that summit again this year with some additional speakers. That's what I'm planning to do mid-year.
Okay, mid-year.
A book out this year, mid-year also.
Yes, and then also you can go to Electric Sense to learn more, and so if you become a subscriber of his website, you get an ebook. Or you can download an free ebook, to learn a little bit more. Lloyd Burrell, thank you so much for coming on the Lily McDermott Radio Show. I really appreciate it, and the extra time that you have given us too.
Well, Lily, it's been a genuine pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really like your message. I like how you're helping people. I think you are in the truth here. I think it's a very genuine, honest message. So, yeah, really and I'll be happy to come back on.
Wonderful. I'll have Ashley.
After the book.
Yes, after the year. Okay, after the book comes out.
After the book comes out, yeah.
And for those of you who are watching and you're still watching and you're watching on YouTube or Facebook Live, please like us, share this information, help us grow the show. And for now, we will say goodbye. So thank you so much, Lloyd, for being on the show and for all the information that you have given us.
Thank you.
Now we're going to stop the stream and our